Welcome back to another MotoGP Mac podcast with myself, Mac, and Jake. And this week we have the luxury of having Simon Crafar on to tell us about a few questions that we put to him a couple of weeks ago, and he's going to come and answer them today. So, welcome to the show, Simon. How are you doing?
Yeah, all good. I'm enjoying some much needed time at home. Like it's the only time this year I've gone and then got on to pottering around doing a few jobs, which everyone will know around the house that doesn't get done during the year. On both the house and the car, things like firewood to fixing little things on the house, service the kids' cars. Stuff I haven't done.
That's just the stuff that's put on the long finger always.
Yeah,
exactly. I know this one. I'm an electrician by trade, and there's about a ton of electrical work needs to be done in my house. But it's always like, maybe another day. Yeah, maybe another day. So I suppose one of the questions I have for you is, Joe, what have you thought of the season in 2022 altogether? What do you think were like high points, or Joe, or the low points of the season? Do you know?
I luckily spotted your question list just before we came on here.
Oh, nice.
I was going, and I didn't see it under the link. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right.
I'm bad like that. When you said, one of the high points for me that stands out clear was Jack winning in Japan, and that I don't know completely why it was a high point. It was kind of like watching Petrucci win at Mugello, it was just so cool. It was one of those, someone that the whole paddock loves, knows is great with us, with the press people, with everyone. And then they achieve what they can achieve, and they haven't done it yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was kind of one of those feelings. If I think about low points, that was hard because there wasn't, really major injuries, or then the one that leaps out is Suzuki leaving, a low point. If we had to talk about on track, it was probably first turn in Catalunya, when Taka took out two of the boys that are fighting for the championship and really ended Rins's run, because as you saw, I felt he was in something like third at the time. He was in that zone where points wise he was really close to third if it wasn't in third,
Right.
I just remember going, oh no, with the broken bone in his hand and out, that has really damaged his run, and we never saw him come back. I think he would have been in that group the whole way along the season. So that'd have to be a low point for me, losing.
Yeah, and he just had surgery again on that wrist in the off season, just this week actually. So he's had to have a second surgery.
And see his social media photo. He's such a lovely fella, isn't he? He's like,
he's
always so positive, always so kind. Like, And actually, I hope we get back to that. I've said it before, I'm proud of our riders, in MotoGP. I say our, but in the sport we love, I'm really proud of how they are. People regularly say, oh, we haven't got those, those hate relationships between.
I don't like hate relationships.
Well, it's interesting for the viewers,
Professional rivalry is good
because you can rivalry, which normally comes from dislike, from in there. But I would go as far as saying the riders that I grew up with were far less polished, far less finished human beings that you can be proud of. They were much more rough around the edges.
Diamond in the rough,
go on their emotions more, these guys, I can watch them get asked really blunt questions from some media that you just go, oh, that's the sort of question that'll wind a rider up. And it's like they just obviously register it and go, let that anger pass by that they no doubt have felt a spike of, and answer it really professionally. And I'm genuinely proud of them. They don't basically the way they treat each other in general is a level above in my era and the eras before.
Definitely, yeah, and like you could see it there after a number of races. They were all congratulating each other. You know what I mean? You know, personally, in my era,
I would say 90% of it, 80-90% of it is really what they want to do, not
Genuine.
just because they're doing the genuine, not just because they're doing it because the
cameras are watching.
Somebody's telling them to do it, to be PC.
Yeah. Now, personally, myself, like, if I ever lost a race to someone, I found it very hard to go shake their hand and be nice to them. But look, I guess like the world has changed as well, and as well, look, I suppose the level of professionalism has changed and is expected now. Do you know what I mean? And is it getting to the stage of Formula One? No, not yet, thank God. But do you know what I mean? It is much higher.
I think they've made you're right. The level of professionalism is another level. But they've been shown and made the mistakes in front of the camera and from Moto 3 or even Junior World Championship. So by the time they get here, they've already kind of learned not to be, sorry, but a dickhead. You know what I mean? I came across like a right idiot there. I'm going to fix that. You know what I mean? I'm going to swallow that pride. I'm going to, and they've learnt that from such a young age. By the time that we get to see them in MotoGP, and I don't think it's taking away. I don't think it's worse. You know what I mean? It's not a negative. It's only less exciting if people want to see that genuine rivalry that they dislike each other.
And Formula One, to me, they seem more like pampered princesses than riders. Riders seem more genuine. They seem to love their sport more. They don't get, bent out of shape because I don't want to take out my earring or crap.
I think just for F1 guys, it's just a different mindset. Like they are as passionate about racing their car as MotoGP bikes or MotoGP riders are about their bikes, but it's a whole different privilege in my view. Do you know what I mean? That they're coming up, yes, they have to have the same equal hunger, talent, finance. You probably have to have a little bit more finance behind you to get into a series. Like I think GP3, which is 3 down from our Formula 3, is about €2.5 million a year to run the European season. Do you know what I mean? Which is quite a lot of money for one car. Do you know what I mean? One driver.
Yes.
But I don't think you can ever doubt a person's passion for what the sport or the motorsport that they do. But I think when you look at the violence in a crash in like, and I always put it like this: I would prefer to fall off a bike than be strapped into a car in a crash. Do you know what I mean? Because at least on a bike, I might have an option of getting myself away from the thing that's going to hit me. Do you know what I mean? Whereas in a car, and then especially in those cars, you're strapped in, looking forward, and you've nowhere to go. Do you know what I mean?
I think you're talking about big crashes though, because I don't know anything about Formula One. I don't follow it, and it's not because I've got a grudge or anything. It doesn't.
No,
I mean, there's other sports that I like watching that I can see the human input more. Yeah. That I'd rather go downhill mountain bike world. Series. I really enjoy watching them. Anyway, what I wanted to say was with cars, I don't agree with one thing you were saying there. With cars, you get more for example, feeling the edge of grip on a motorcycle. When it goes wrong, you do suffer more. And it's, you know what I'm saying? Like,
you do.
Right from the very first laps out there, you're trying to feel that edge. I realize in a car, it will be the same, especially at very high level, and it'll be a very fine edge that you're feeling, just like in bikes. But when you fall on a bike, it's so easy to break a wrist, grind a finger, break a collarbone, even from the small crashes. It is one flick.
I don't warm up, you can go down and break something.
I don't think they have the same risk until it's the big crashes, and that's my opinion. You can disagree.
I get you in 90% of the time, but if you take in a small crash in an F1 car, you take the front corner off, right? Because they're designed to go up and down, right? They're not designed to go back and forward the wishbones, right? But if you snap a wishbone, the other wheel will lock and it'll actually break your thumbs and fingers because your hand is actually gripped into the steering wheel. So unless you remove your hands like that very quickly, you are actually at a massive risk of damaging your implements for driving. Right? Do you know what I mean? So, and that could just be a small crash. Do you know what I mean? But look, you are right. In the most part of crashes, you are safer in a car. But I would just prefer to be on a bike. Being honest, I would fancy my chances more on a bike than in a car personally. But yeah,
that's why when I'm in a car, I'm a lousy car driver because I'm in a bike. I'm outside. You get me in a car, oh, you can't kill me. You know, run into me. I don't care. Yeah,
Jake,
I dare you to pull in my lane. You know,
that's it.
I just throw in before we move on. I do really appreciate the tech side of F1. It's quite mind blowing.
Yeah,
and also appreciate the skill at that level. The only reason I just can't get fully sucked in, maybe I need to know someone, or that is driving.
I never was an F1 guy ever.
But I just, because I can't see. I mean, when you see them live, it's mind blowing. How fast they go around corners. It makes bikes look so slow, because they with the downforce and the amount of grip and the center of gravity, they're amazing. But I just can't see the human input, which I love to see in sport.
The
rider that's it.
Yeah. Perfect. So Honda have been a big issue this year. Well, they've had a terrible season for themselves. Like, you look at the other three Honda riders, I think Mark was like 30 points behind them after missing half of the season, 40 points behind them after missing half of the season. Question here is like, do you think they can get back on top within 2023, or do you think it's going to need a lot more time for them to get even in the fight?
That is the few $1 million question.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, look, I don't know. I don't know what they've got lined up, what they're about to discover, what they're hopefully going to turn up with at Sepang test in February, which is my next trip, which I'm really looking forward to.
Yes.
But all of the signs that you get when they're on the right path, which I believe we're getting from KTM,
that you were
because
saying that,
the real big interest for me was, and I've said it lots of times before, was these two giants in the motorcycle world. Who's going to dig out of the hole first, KTM and Honda. And watching and listening, it sounds like KTM are coming out of that hole first. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They're making, and we all saw it with that new chassis at the last round, and what Brad did on it, So, they've turned up with another chassis at the test. They're at least showing signs of finding the path out of there, and they've got new aero that made some steps. It's not there yet from Brad's debriefs, but they turned up with new aero. It was better in some areas. They haven't even got the first of the F1 Red Bull F1 guys. They haven't got the first of that yet, which is exciting. We should see that in February. And to me, all of the signs are showing that KTM are winning that race of who's coming out of the technical hole that KTM and Honda have been in. And so there isn't any of those signs coming out of Honda yet. I haven't seen any yet. So it's even signs of them finding a direction, which is damn scary. If you're signed up to run Honda or working with Honda, it's a really scary moment because they obviously tried hard to get that direction and for that Valencia test. And that then gives you direction where to work on for the February test. And we didn't see that. And that is the most worrying thing for me. So they're going to come out. I mean, obviously they can test with their test riders. But between now and that first, obviously everyone's working hard, that first official test for 23, Sepang in early February, Honda are in the scariest position, of everyone. For me,
do you think it was a bit of a mistake though? Like Paul came out and he said, from when he announced that he was leaving to go to KTM or to Gas, be correct, right? And Alex announced that he was leaving to go to Ducati. They stopped giving him parts, which is normal. I know that, right? But if you're in such a deep hole, right, would you not think it was like a right thing to do was like to keep the testing program going? Like the bikes that those riders were leaving to were technically ahead of them. Do you know what I mean? And to lose all that data, that input from those riders, is it a bit of a mistake, that they could have just put them on a season-long testing program? Do you know what I mean?
You can look at it like that, or you can look at it like I think they do look at it, and that is, I can give you an example, a concrete one.
Sure.
I fell off the 500 testing at Phillip Island, and that's not far from my home. I remember it was a test because I sat in the garage and was putting on some other boots. I'd ground through a boot and I was putting on some other boots and watching the guys rebuild my bike. And Brent Stevens, one of them, was there, and it was Brenty there. Anyway, one of the mechanics, I said to them, "Hey, could I have that expansion chamber? It's all bent,
bent up, it's all beat up,
beautiful handmade 2-stroke titanium expansion chamber." I said, "Could I have that? It's broken.
Memento.
It's going to go in the bin. I know."
Yeah.
And then they said, "Oh, you better ask the Japanese." So I did. I asked the Japanese Yamaha, really nice staff that were with us all year. And he said, "Oh no, Simon, we can't give it." And I'm like, "I don't understand why." And they're like, "Everyone in this paddock uses basically the same bore and stroke,
Yeah.
Because they're all 125. 125s use a 125. The 250s were 2 of those. The 500s were 4 of those.
Yeah.
We pay 2 guys, they've worked 3 months over winter on the dyno, cutting and changing and testing to come up with that exhaust to make the perfect power,
Yeah.
If it gets into the wrong hands, we've lost that 3 months development. It automatically goes to them because they can just copy it. And what I'm saying is, by letting a rider that's moving to another manufacturer when you find something good, you're going to lose it. You lose it instantly to the other manufacturer when he goes there, because the rider can tell him, they did this. Yeah. They put this part on my bike, and this is what it did. And then they can chase try and see it, copy it. Look,
I could 100.
But what I'm saying, especially when they've got another rider that they can check with, so there's no chance of losing it. I think that's it.
I definitely think you're right, but I just think it's kind of like, I could understand it if you were a Ducati or a Aprilia and they would do that. Do you know what I mean? But if you're fighting to try and figure out a direction, data is king, right? So if you're not getting that data, is it a bit counterproductive? It's kind of it was
just a really good point. No, it's a really good point, because the thing is, Honda have always been the most protective of, they're first to cover up things. And that's fine, like I've said before, when you're leading the technology race, when you're winning. But when you're arguably the worst bike on the grid, competitiveness wise, there's not much point, is there? And when I look at I've said this before, the Aprilia team are the most open to talk to, they're most open to tell me what they're up to and why and what they think and what do you think, what have you seen, I think this is how, it's proof. They have made the biggest steps in the last 2 years, and
they're such a small company too. People don't realize the difference between Aprilia. That's a dot in the wall compared to like a Honda or a Yamaha. That's like you got 10 guys and they're going, "What are you going to do?" You know what I mean? They have a whole, a whole team of people. They're going, "Hey, how'd you do? How's your wife? How's the kids?" That type of thing.
I know everyone. Yeah.
Yes, they live there. The passion is what makes those Italian teams move. Yeah, they're doing things.
I love that. You hang on. That's what it feels like. one other thing is all of the ones that are succeeding are busy doing what has always happened, and that is stealing people. You know,
Yeah.
I say stealing, but it's not really stealing. It's hiring people
Yeah.
from other areas that they're doing really well. I mean, look, KTM did it with Honda first. They took
Saw
a whole
that.
lot of Honda people, and they've ended up with a kind of a Honda built like a, you know, the KTM
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's offensive. I think that's basically what they did, really, basically. And they've had the same problem as Honda went into a hole. So did they, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why I thought it was,
riders.
I thought it was really interesting. It's why I thought it was really interesting who's going to get out of the hole first, because they've got quite similar machines, even though they're built, done different ways. And what have KTM done? Is hired Ducati people, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, Ducati people did it, but Ducati people did it before KTM were even there, hiring Aprilia people, you know? Gigi is from Aprilia, you know?
Yeah.
When I was Olin's tech, I worked with Gigi. He was the boss of the 250 Aprilia that was so dominant, you know?
RSW.
And so what I'm saying is the ones that succeed are doing that. They're hiring people from, you know.
Yeah. Well, look, that always happens. You know what I mean? That you know, a rider going to a team is one thing, right? But taking an engineer to the team that understands how the actual thing works is invaluable as well. Do you know what I mean? So,
but I haven't seen Honda doing that, and
well, I think
Yamaha maybe, but less so. What I'm saying is, you know, Honda would be the least that I've seen, you know, watching who's gone, and Yamaha would be probably the next least. And maybe there's something in that, you know.
The Honda swing arm, right? Because I know Jake really wants to ask this question, right? But the Honda swing arm built by Calyx, right, seems to have worked, right? Because they're going to bring that into 2023. Even though Mark was saying, you know, I don't really feel too much of a difference at it. You know, we have to evaluate it. If it's on both bikes now for the testing, it's fairly confident that that's found. The question really is like, we know Honda have changed their chassis a number of times throughout the 2022 season. Would they not give Calyx a crack of making them a chassis?
Great point. Yeah. I mean, that'd be the go, wouldn't it? At least,
so I thought.
If you've got two of you having a go and say, here's our best shot, here's Calyx's best shot. I would.
Calyx is proven. It's not like they're proven. Look, they dominated Moto 2. You know, it's not like you're pulling some guy that you never heard of off the wall. They've dominated too. Then you have the swing arm's the only thing they've really had any progress with in Honda. So go with the flow. You know,
like I just think,
I'm sure they're thinking that. Yeah, I'm sure they're thinking the same as you.
Hopefully.
And why not? You know, everyone else has made a step forward with the carbon fiber. You know, maybe not just in lap time like performance, but over race distance. I remember when KTM and Aprilia first. Sorry, not Yamaha. They're still aluminium. But when the Italian manufacturers or European manufacturers, I should say, have gone to the carbon fiber swing arm, they've got a lot of its tire life over race distance, you know, when used in combination with the right electronics and setup. But it, to me, points to, you know, this is only guessing, you know, watching from the outside, that the swing arm that they were using was not right. You know what I mean? To be able to come straight in and beat it with their best effort and aluminium, you know, and I'm sure if someone else made more efforts with the carbon fiber, that they would go like again, you know, and figure out. And anyway, you know, so
I just think it's fascinating, and it's probably hard for a brand like China or like Honda to outsource that bit, as they have never done it in the past. And I think, like, one of the things that myself and Jake find the difference between the manufacturers in the Japanese manufacturers and the European is that the Europeans seem to have a continuous development, and they don't care whether the engine blows up or the wing breaks. Do you know what I mean?
More risk takers, yeah.
Yeah, we'll just make the wing a little bit stronger, or we'll change this in the engine and we'll go again. Do you know what I mean? Whereas with Honda, let's just say like the Stegosaurus wings, those would have all had to be durability tested 3 or 4 times, whereas not necessarily with the European teams. They would have put it on, tested, okay, that configuration doesn't work, let's try a different type. Do you know what I mean? It's more of a risk, as you say, like, you know, and that do we like this is where we think Honda are going to take a little bit longer to catch up, is because they're maybe not going to be such risk takers.
I totally agree. It's always been like that, but it's also why Japanese machinery is so famous for being reliable. You know, you can't kill it. It's just a little bit different mindset.
Yeah.
The thing that I would like to, rather than go into it in detail, is point out, if you compare, okay, say Honda or Yamaha in Japan, working with a European test team, there's still a bit of breakdown in communication. There's a big distance. You can't sit down with them, you know what I mean, and say, we think this, what do you think? Then getting the parts done how you want, you know, how you think, then getting them delivered. It's such a longer process, more chance of loss of communication process compared to the Europeans. For example, the Italians, you know, the Europeans at their factory with their test rider who speaks the same language, you know. I think there's a big part of that. I mean, for example, let's use Ducati. You know, they've got Michele Pirro, who the crew chief told me he thinks a big part of their success is having a rider that can ride within 1 second of their fastest racer. You know, and he's right there, speaks the same language, can come to tests, can talk. It's pretty valuable, I think.
Oh, massively. And like, even when you look at it with not just Pirro, but you also have Zarco as well, who's definitely turning into a great test rider. We'll call it for them, right?
Really good point.
You know, like, I think
basically having a rider who's racing while developing for you, like Carl did at the end of the season. Dead right. It's magic.
I think, and that's where I was going back to with Honda. So with these riders leaving, okay, right, 90% of the stuff that they have brought out is either a copy or of someone else's design, in the way of like the aerodynamics, etc. Right? I'm like, why not bolt those on? Do you know what I mean? It's not that they've come out and they're premiering this. These are already innovations that are out in the public eye. Do you know what I mean? What's the harm? But I think we could spend about 3 weeks talking about Honda and trying to get them
straight out.
Just one thing to add before we move on is I don't think it's a bad thing that when I said this when I first saw it, that Honda are open-minded enough to copy something and give it a go. I think that's a good sign.
But that's new for them.
Yes. And I think they're being forced to, but it's a good thing. I hope they can. Really
look, they've been much more daring in the development than Yamaha, in my opinion. Now, I'm a Yamaha fan, right? So it hurts every time I see. Like, I'm delighted to see Fabio up the front, right? But the other riders down towards the back, that really, really hurts. Do you know what I mean? Because I know it's not the ethos of or what Yamaha want, right? But I suppose just for me, it's like it took to the last race or second last race that we saw the Stegosaurus wings appear. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, come on, these were out 4 months ago. Do you know what I mean? Bolt it on, let's go.
And until the test at Valencia, the updates in Aero were just so small, conservative steps, weren't they? And before they brought out quite a radical one in Valencia, but it's probably taken 2 years or 3 years to get radical, and give something.
Exactly.
But, so they're more conservative by the looks.
Now we get into Yamaha in a minute, but I have a question, Joe, that Mark quite well from around the paddock, right? and you see his demeanor, you see how he is, how he's walking around. Before and after the crash, is he the same sort of person? Do you know what I mean? Is he much more serious now about his racing, or is he still as carefree? Or
I love what I've seen right at the end of the season from Mark, because I haven't been his biggest fan off the bike,
right? Okay.
Because he's tended to play games, with the press or with, I think, with honesty, look, I fucking love what he does on the bike. I so admire
no
him.
One's better.
Unbelievable. I don't think there has been someone since Stoner that's made me go, oh my God. He's just fantastic.
Freddie Spencer's the only one I can think of.
Yeah. I mean, Stoner was the last one I was like, wow, that's fantastic. Mark is just so wonderful in his racecraft. He's so clever. He's so determined. Excuse me. But off the bike, he can be prickly, and
Right.
in the years that I've been in the paddock, how do I put it? And I'm not trying to cover up something. It's just, I suppose, some arrogance there, when it comes to the way he celebrates wins. You watch all the others, and you're getting people from other garages come out and pat him on the back, and other riders happy for them. And Mark's doing this kind of football stand in a circle that feels like to everybody else. I'm like, I can't get into that, And so that's only me. You don't have to agree with me at all, viewers. I'm just saying how I feel. But then also, I think not always being straight about stuff in interviews about, and since the accidents and operations and injuries, this last bit when he's been back, I mean, it was really at Phillip Island that it confirmed it to me. It was like, I love this new approach from Mark. And I don't know whether it's the accident and what he's been through, which always bad times teach him more than good times for everyone. But I don't know whether it's that or change of management, because
Maybe,
as good as his manager was as a racer, and to get him to here, he was fucking miserable, you're around a miserable kind of personality who's managing you, and then you've got Alberto Puig, who hate as your team manager, who kind of, they both hate the press, don't have much respect for the press, and I totally understand why, because I've worked as a rider in a team, and I know why the press piss these real professional guys off. But now I'm working. I don't like calling myself a journalist. I'm working as a journalist, and seeing it from the other side. There is still, at least everyone else can manage the professionalism. What I mean? The respect. And I'm not talking about Mark here. I'm talking about Mark's management before. So there's something in there has changed, and I love it. I love it. Mark's honesty at Phillip Island, all the interviews, pre-race, after race, then his honesty after the test. I didn't see it as kicking under. Really, people were going, "Oh, he's booted them," because they love a story. So why these
Honda
guys
always prep
get
the
angry
riders,
with the press?
Don't they always prep the rider, Honda, to tell them what to say before the interviews?
I don't think so. It's more how close they're watching, And it doesn't matter. That doesn't mean whether you're a rider or a team staff, or how I can freely talk to other team staff, and the Honda boys are more, it's a general feeling. What I'm saying is, I love the change in Mark. The last bit, I hope it stays, because he's winning me over, not just as a rider on track, but as a guy talking after as well. It's really nice to see. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is the real Mark, that we haven't got to see all of. And
so this documentary,
he's got new. I think he's got new management in there, new way of looking at things, and I love it. I really love it. You know.
Yeah,
Simon, I did love. I brag about it when you were interviewing Poog at the beginning of the year, off the cuff, and the bike wasn't doing well. But at first it did look like it was doing well. Remember when the first test came out, and Poog was saying, "There's nothing wrong with the bike. It's perfect. It has no flaws." And you're going, "What are you talking about? It's all over the place. The thing is skin here, skin there." And finally he goes, "Yeah, well, it does have a flaw. Yeah, we are having problems."
I can't remember that. We've had a few, but
never forget it. Like, oh, that's it. He really stuck it to him.
He
forced him to say it. I was like, he goes, "Oh yeah, well, it does."
So just another question on Mark that I do have, right, is that Alex is now on a Ducati, right, and a very sorted Ducati, right. Mark is, I won't say he's getting to the age, right, but with the injuries and redeveloping a Honda and all of this, it's a lot of work, right? And he's probably not no longer worried about money or whatever. It's all about his legacy right now. And the question that keeps coming into my head is that if Alex takes a massive leap forward, which he did in the test, right? He was already faster than he was on the Honda, on the Ducati, right? And he's not yet comfortable on the Ducati. What's there saying that won't influence Mark to be like, what am I doing trying to do all of this work and not get anywhere? Would you think that Mark in the next 2 or 3 years will start looking more legacy, trying to get that 10th world championship? Do you know what I mean? To become...
I think that's only human nature. I don't think everyone would. If Honda can't turn it around, I mean, he's doing his best to do his side. He has been testing and sacrificing his race weekend a bit, trying to help Honda, and FP1, FP2, trying things before then focusing on the race weekend. And it's not easy to do that at race weekends. I think Mark knows he's only got a few years left, So, it's coming towards the end, I mean, Valentino did well into 40. I
don't see Mark doing that.
Mark being a world champion, he's still, to me, my favorite. If you put everybody on the same bike, he's still the man. If you put everybody on the same bike, I would put my money on Mark, I would.
All day.
Thankfully it's not like a big difference anymore, like it was up to 19. But if you put everybody on the same bike, I'd still put, because of the determination, the racecraft, the decisions, Phillip Island was a perfect one. He guessed what everybody was going to do and then went with that stuff. It's fantastic. Fantastic. So the thing is, he's only going to have so much patience for Honda to turn this around. And I'm only saying that because it's human nature. He's
had amazing patience up to this point. You think about it.
And he knows that he's only got so many years left. He wants to win some more, and he can. So come on, Honda, turn it around, or
that's it.
You jump ship. You would.
So we talk about Yamaha now, right? And I was laughing when I watched you, and you were hoping that it was, and because I was hoping the exact same thing, that they got the freight labels mixed up and they were running running the wrong engines, right? But okay, so what is going on with the engine, Joe, is the first thing. Like, now I do remember in Misano, because I was watching Misano when Quadraro was out, right? And they were running what I will class as a low drag aero package. I'm not sure if you remember that, where they cut off the duckbill at the front and they pulled the wings back and brought them up a little bit higher. And he set the fast time there. Now they did run this in Valencia the last day, but I'm just amazed that firstly there was no major difference with what the riders felt. Do you know what I mean? Down the straight line. A lot of our subscribers here, when I streamed the live timing, we were all glued to the top speed every time a Yamaha was out. We were like taking notes and writing it down. I actually have a sheet where I have every single one of Yamaha riders things, just to try and see where was this rocket of an engine, and then for it not to happen. I think every Yamaha fan kind of sat down and was like, oh no, like, you know what I mean, another year of this. And then Crutchlow came out and he was saying, that the bike is very aggressive to ride. Do you know what I mean? You have to be a very aggressive rider. And that's not what Yamaha bikes are normally about. That are about, nice handling, fine handling, easy to ride.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, for 2023, we're kind of trying to bring that back into play. But then I was like, going, okay, but I get that for the other riders now. Okay, let's just say Yamaha have a satellite team in 2024, right? Bringing it back to the other three riders that they can ride it, I agree with, but they could damage their lead rider or the only rider that's currently capable of winning by doing that. Do you know what I mean? So, like, what do you think is actually going on with Yamaha? This engine.
Well, there's two things in there, but
Yeah.
look, I haven't got more info than I had when I did, the MotoGP podcast, where I was saying that they did, it was now, and it's through my memory now, they had Catalonia test. It was faster. The engine was faster, you know. They did Misano test. It was faster. They did Motegi test. It was confirmed faster. That was with Crutchlow. The other two were with all the riders, because they were official tests. They did one with Crutchlow, and Motegi was good. Then took it to Jerez. Carl said it was Mayo Mirigali said on the live during the test. Carl said it's a rocket, in his words,
Yeah.
And then it showed nothing. To me, I still feel the same. I haven't got more info, but that something was wrong, because you can't go through 4 tests and everybody be happy with the progress and then go nothing, no difference at all.
But Simon, Simon, it's a myth when people say you can't get as much horsepower out of an inline 4 as a V4. Okay, still, you can put in the same compression, whole 9 yards. Okay, but the problem with the inline 4 is that long crank, because it's longer, it has more inertia. Okay,
wider,
wider. It beats up the bearings at the bottom. There's a certain pivot point though where it burns up the bearings, the bottom end bearings, the crank end bearings. All right. And it's just not as reliable. It was a big show that when in all 22 of Yamaha were running 21 engines, because the 22 package, they had to throw it away because it was unreliable. Wouldn't it make sense for them to say, okay, we have all these people looking for horsepower. Yeah, we put it out there. We can have it for horsepower, but great. It's no good if it's going to blow up. Okay, we'll just turn it back down again. Right. Yeah. And that goes along with the smoother engine bit. You know what I'm saying? You got to remember there's PR. The Yamaha does not want to come out and say our engines are unreliable, and we went on the cheap and didn't, make a V4 when we should have. We just kept that engine to make it cheaper.
Well, that's the next question that we have for Simon about the V. But do you think it's like for Yamaha, like it's worrying that they can't close that gap to Ducati, like with the engine?
I think the worrying bit is that even if they make more power, that I think that's just going to get it to. There's two things. I like what Carl's saying there about the aggressiveness, even though Fabio's not complaining about it. Of delivery of power will help him as well, because all the manufacturers, the clever engineers, the riders have said this, the crew chiefs have told me this over all years I've spent back in MotoGP, is that if you break the traction, like the Ducati 22 Ducati said in the beginning, you don't get it back. It keeps spinning up. And Carl is right. And what he says, if it doesn't deliver smoothly, he's not explaining it like this. He's got to, just say it. We can't have an aggressive, but it loses you time, It causes more tire wear. I mean, the big standout thing we'll probably come to later is when I rode the Aprilia and the Ducati, how smooth it was. Incredibly smooth, to the point where it makes you feel like it's not fast,
That's hard to believe.
Exactly. So, and we feel those changes, and you know what I'm saying, engines where you put cam timing, and they always have peaks and troughs, and their ability to smooth that out, basically pull it down so it's all, but have enough in the first place to be able to pull it down that it's linear and still have enough power. If they do that, then at the end of the day, the Yamaha, the inlines always make their time on the track in different places. And really the only way to make them win is do what Rins did in the last race, is get that jump and stay there, you know what I mean? Be able to do that. But if you don't get the jump, you don't get the start, and you've got to fight, it's too hard to fight with bikes that are doing the lap time in a different way. I think that is the biggest problem. Even if you do make a competitive enough package, it's still going to do it in a different way. And if you're in a fight, you're better off in the V4, if you're your time. I mean, everybody loves riding an inline machine, it sounds like it's more likable. It does what humans like to do, let that brake go, roll, flow, it feels more natural, but if you're in a fight, it's harder,
And that was kind of like the next question is like, Joe, now they have more Marmoni in there in the engine department in Yamaha. Like, he is a V specialist all the way back from Ferrari days. So, like, do you think, like, I remember Rossi in 2018 saying, that we need to have the same tools to be able to fight the others. Like, is it something that Yamaha should prioritize to go or look for, even for the next regs change in 2026, to start looking at, should we use the V4 engine? Do you know what I mean? It's a massive change, but
it's a massive change, a massive cost, and also it's throwing everything you've built up, in the bin almost, apart from, bore and stroke and RPM and valve, and you're throwing all of your chassis knowledge, all of your knowledge in the bin, a lot of it, and that's a massive cost, like incredible. Not just and I'm not the man to ask. You need to ask someone at Yamaha, because no one else is going to know.
I would if they answered me, but no. And look, here's the question that I have, right? Because like I'm a person that I hate what I call all eggs in one basket. So only having one rider out of 4 bikes that can actually get the maximum out of the bike, right? And I think this is Ducati's strongest point, right? Okay, the bike is sorted, but it's sorted for multiple riding styles to ride, right? So let's just take, for instance, the PR that Yamaha would have got if, say,
we've been saying it all year. We don't, instead of the manufacturers saying, okay, we'll put we'll hang our whole season on one rider like Marquez or Fabio. Make the bike good enough for everybody can ride it, and everybody has a shot.
Well, the thing is, getting back to the Honda bit, when you, as I've said this repeatedly because I really believe it, that Honda now have the strongest lineup of riders.
Yes, they do.
Yes. Of anyone. It's unreal what they've got. Like, because Rins is fantastic, Mir is fantastic, and Marquez is fantastic. Yeah. And if they can dig their way out of this hole, they've got the boys on the bikes,
It's always been ironic. It's like this ironic balance that it's the Europeans have better engineers and make better bikes, and the Japanese always get the very best riders. You know what I mean? And it ends up kind of balancing it out.
But you know why that is? They've got a bigger budget.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They can pay $20 million for Marquez, or they're like, forget that. Because when Rossi went to Ducati with that evil monocoque chassis, right? He only took he cut his salary in half, right? So without that, I mean, there's no way. I think it didn't. Fabio looked at Ducati originally instead of, it was the Yamaha or Ducati, but there was no way they could afford the $20 million to pay Fabio for this year or these last 2 years. They just couldn't afford it.
I don't know the figure, but it's quite clear that Yamaha paying Fabio, Honda paying Mark, and who knows, Mir, is a level above what the European manufacturers, in my estimation only, is a level above. That's why they will get normally the first choice, when you've got but it's also, you've got to have the confidence to be able, at the moment, to be able to make that bike
Yeah.
look as good as the opposition. That's the
There you
thing.
go.
Respect to Miguel Oliveira.
Mhm.
I believe he would have taken a pay cut because he's just focusing on he wants some results again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I-
I'm really curious about Oliveira because I haven't seen him picked out individually to show his speed. I've heard about his speed, but it's hard to judge when they're on the KTM. It's like Bender. I think Bender would do is the dark horse of MotoGP. If he was on a Ducati or Aprilia, I think he would fly. He reminds me of Marquez, the way he pushes that front end. I mean, he's pushed that front end and he's gone down. Up, no, he isn't. He's gone down. Up, no, he isn't. And just amazing.
He's aggressive. He's really aggressive,
and he's consistent. Which
Yeah.
which makes me say, yeah, I agree. If he had the bike at the same level as the best this year, he would have been right there for sure. Yeah.
So
I mean, for the championship.
I do have a question about the GP22. Joe, you're probably one of the luckiest men walking this planet that you got to throw the leg over a GP22.
I agree. I
So,
was lucky.
What is it like to ride the latest, probably most technically advanced bike that's on the grid?
On the planet, no?
On the planet.
Yeah, unbelievable. So it was a wonderful experience. I wrote it down actually and put it in an article, but it was not exactly how I imagined. And that's why I knew what Alex Marquez, although he wasn't allowed to say too much, it doesn't feel as fast as you imagine it would.
Yeah, I can't
because of the delivery. It's so beautiful. I mean, it feels fast, but it doesn't have a punch anywhere that makes you feel that, whoa, that's scary, because it delivers it so well. Okay, the things that blew me away were, I've got to say, before I rant on about the Ducati, is I didn't get to test the KTM, a couple of years ago, or the Aprilia earlier this year, Mugello, on MotoGP tires. I got to test them on production tires, meaning production slicks, Michelin's, and they're not the same. The MotoGP tires are the bikes are built around those.
Yes.
And so I'm talking everything chassis wise. So geometry, the power delivery is the geometry, the front, the way it turns, the wings, everything is built around those. So I got to try the bike how it's supposed to be,
Right.
If they don't give you those tires, they can't give you the real electronic settings. You can't try the real bike,
And is that what they consider the base settings when there's the same the tires makes the base settings and then your fine tuning?
I asked what was in the bike, and Michele Pirro just turned to me and says, "My settings,"
Okay.
And he's similar height to me, so maybe a centimeter shorter or something. He's lighter, but I'd be going slower than him. So I think the bike felt bloody perfect. So I'll just run through quickly all the things that jumped out at me is how the engine felt was the first impression. Beautiful, kind of a V8 kind of feeling, and
really?
for those of you who love V8s like I do. Then leaving the box, they're really tricky because all of these engines are designed to run at quite high RPM, not below that, and they bunny hop. They won't run bog, and so you have to keep them above that, and then they are beautiful all the way to whatever it is, 16, 17. Then leaving the box, the clutch, which I didn't expect to feel a difference. I didn't. You don't really notice clutches normally. They're just you notice them if they're bad. If they're bad, But this felt so good, so perfect. I was like, wow, that's the best clutch I've ever felt. And then get out of pit lane. Apart from managing brake temperature and stuff, then worrying about tire temperature. It was stinking hot, Misano, so didn't have to worry too much about that. But was the delivery was the first thing I noticed, and going through the gears, how good everything worked, and how well the wheelie is managed, but without me noticing it's managed, no rough cutting or anything, just hovers off the ground, beautiful, accelerate like hell. Then brake stability was the biggest impression, because normally it would have been gearbox, because they're another level if you've never ridden a seamless.
No, I never.
They blow your mind, like wow. But the thing is, because I'd ridden that on the KTM and Aprilia, I knew what to expect. I knew what to expect with the carbon brakes. The tires, I went like, wow, they're another level, of how good. I didn't get to push them to the edge, a little bit on the rear, but then the braking stability was like I felt on the Aprilia, but was amazing with all this aero. They've just changed the bike. Like, for example, at Mugello, the Aprilia blew my mind in the fast section, 300 Ks plus over that rise. Start finish line and then up over. Everything I've ridden there, I've ridden a lot there on different production bikes, even rode the V4R there before they put wings on it. So the first one. And that was probably the last bike I rode there. And I've ridden R1s there, G6R1000, and obviously race bikes always before. And you have to fight to keep the front on the ground. All of your efforts are going into keeping the front on the ground, and managing that throttle so you don't catch the wind too much. This thing, I actually said afterwards to the guys, a aging, overweight track day could hold it full there. It was so stable, because I am that now. And it was incredible. The bike was absolutely glued to the ground. It didn't have to worry about managing the wheelie, standing on the pegs, trying to keep my weight forward. It was just and it was glued to the ground over that rise. It was like, wow. So this Ducati had the same feel in that there was no rises there, but in the acceleration area, the faster ones, the fast turn at the end of the back straight and the braking areas, I've never felt a bike that stable. Meaning, not only was it stable, not bouncing around, when the rear came off the ground, it stayed in a straight line, and I didn't feel as it.
I always wondered that. Why doesn't it do this? Because all you have to have is be a millimeter off, and the thing's going to go this way when you're on one wheel. Yeah,
and, I think how the management, of the rear, the engine brake and the rear wheel speed, how it touched as well was so perfect that I couldn't feel when it touched and when it hooked back up. It was amazing.
So
truly amazing.
I have a question now, right? This is not on the sheet, right? So you could put any bike in your living room to look at for the rest of your days, like any one of the 500s or a GP22. Which one would it be?
Oh, I mean, I'm not one for putting a bike in my living room.
I would if I was allowed.
And disappointingly, for a lot of people who love older bikes and that, I'm not one for loving older bikes. I always want the newer one. And of course it would be the 22, GP22, But next year that'll change because I love the latest thing, So the 22 Ducati. So I was saying about the 500. Someone said, would I like to ride my old 500, at a, what do you call it? Like a classic event or a race, Saxon Ring, they have it. And I answered honestly, like, I would rather, one had just come out, and I saw one up. I would rather ride that, because it'll be better. I love the new stuff.
Well, I collect all Suzuki's old two-stroke ones and rebuild them. So, like, I have the 80, the RG80, the RG125. I have an RG200 in bits. I have
200. I didn't know they made one.
There was an and then I have the RGV VJ21, VJ22. I can't afford a VJ23 yet. I'd hope one. But like you've written, because I have them all done in Lucky Strike colors. So you have written my my
Dream
holy
bike.
grail,
Yeah.
grail bike of the RGV 500. So in those colors. So so like for me, if I'm my idea of the best day ever is locking myself in the shed, starting one of the bikes, filling it up with blue Castrol smoke. Do you know what I mean? Opening the garage door, and I'm sure my neighbors think that I'm having a big pothead or something because all the smoke is filtering out like a fella. But yeah, I get what you say with like you love the technology and all of the things.
Well, my dream is what happened to Mazzano. I got to ride the latest bike, which is currently the best bike, with the right tires and the right settings. That to me is my dream. That's it. More so than having an older one in the garage. You know.
Yeah. Last year, I had 17 super bikes in my garage. Okay.
Wow.
I was a poor kid. My bikes were literally $150 held together with, rust and glue, So, and I said, one day I'll have a proper super bike collection. I even had a Roar, ROEHR 1250 SC, which is an American super bike, had a V-Rod supercharged engine from a Harley, but it was a proper. It could run with anything. You remember it? I owned one. I know the owner, right? The factory. I took his bike, and now I gave it to Barber Museum. So if you ever stop at the Barber Museum and they see the Roar, that was my bike. But I'm always was like rotating the bikes because I was one of the newest, latest, greatest. Then I'd have European and the Japanese bikes. So when I say the Europeans made better bikes, I'm not being biased. I just had them all, and they win all the comparisons, since 2008. They've won every comparison for 15 straight years now. Partially that's because the Japanese economy took a crap in 2008, the big global thing, and they never recovered from it. So that's why the Japanese factories aren't like Europe and the United States bounced back from 2008 real easy. Japan, they really got crushed on it. So that really hurt them. That's like why Suzuki's out of business now, practically. My bailiwick is finance. I'm retired. I used to own a bunch of real estate and all that thing. I look like a pauper, but I'm pretty well off. You know what I mean? I'm still a poor kid, with dirt under his fingernails. But
speaking of the European manufacturers, right? Aprilia's season this year kind of tapered off towards the end, right? And yes, a bit of that is down to, how do you say, it's a long season. They're not used to fighting at the front either, right? As a team, right? How do you think they're going to cope next year with 4 bikes? Like, it's very hard to say to Miguel, or like with the performance Miguel put in the testing on his first time on the bike and say, okay, you ride last year's bike. Do you know what I mean? Because he is up there as well in my view. So it's like, how do you think they're going to find that balance going into the next year of it, I suppose?
Okay. Aprilia, first of all, did amazing this year. They surprised me not only technically that they made another big jump forward, but Aleix, how well he did. There was races that Aleix was the best man on the track, and I didn't see that coming, no disrespect. Assen, that's the one I'm thinking. It was truly amazing. So how they're going to handle it, I think it's going to be really hard, because it's not going to be easy to step up and feed everything. 4 riders a lot more. It's,
Yeah, and such a small company too. It's not like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 8 machines out there. I'm excited because they seem up for it. I spoke to I did the tech talk with. Paolo. He's up for it. They believe they can do it. That's why they've taken it on, and they've got more info coming back. They've already got more experience. They didn't have an experience fighting for championship.
It was all new. Like, wow, we won. We're winning. Holy shit.
Yeah.
So I think they'll be better now that they've got a year under their belt of learning what they did wrong, last year and how not to do it. I think the base bike is really good. Excuse me.
Yeah.
You can see that the riders jumped on and liked it straight away. And I think Miguel Oliveira is a big addition, and I'm not writing off the others as just, hey, I think he's special, and if you can make him happy, he's going to do some special things. I really do think that.
I think so too. Now, look, Aprilia made me look very stupid during the season because Maverick wasn't at the races, let's just call it the first part of it. And next minute, when they settled him down with the contract for the 2 years, he did kind of change his performance. He found something within the bike. How do you think Maverick is going to get on next year? Because he's definitely within the shadow within the team of Aleix. Do you know what I mean?
I think Maverick and Aleix, their relationship's really good. I think Aprilia has been so patient with Maverick, and that's how to handle him to get the best out of him. But my honest feeling is that Maverick needs to come up with the goods in 2023 because Aprilia have been patient, like I said. They're doing everything that, trying to help him. And there'll be still things that he needs that they haven't been able to fix or whatever. But, having someone like Miguel coming in, Maverick's going to be under pressure to do something because he can't be the third fastest Aprilia. You know what I mean? It's time. It's time to do something. That's my gut feeling, So and the problem is with Maverick is he's not known as like the guys he's fighting within there that bang, bang, bang. He's much more up and down. With going on how he's feeling, or going on rear grip. If he struggles with rear grip, he's really in trouble. You know what I mean? That's what I've noticed with Yamaha and on the Aprilia. So I think pressure's on Maverick.
Yeah, and I was very surprised. So something what I thought with the Aprilia team. Yes, they've done really, really well this year, but the management within the team really care about the riders, right? And I really saw this at the British Grand Prix when Aleix high-sided. Do you know what I mean? And the team manager was like, he doesn't have to go out if he doesn't want to go out. Do you know what I mean? There is no pressure at all on you to go out. And
Massimo Rivola, the manager, he's come from F1, and I've seen evidence of another level of management. So he's brought something pretty special in, and into. He's obviously not technically, but putting all people together and how to manage them, he really has. He did an incredible job.
He has done,
And at the same time, Suzuki lost someone like that,
Exactly.
And
I just think that it's the beginnings of a really complete team, isn't it? Now, technically, they're advanced. Do you know what I mean? There seems to be the ethos within the team of working together and working for everyone. Do you know what I mean? And I think they're going to be quite strong next year, actually. Do you know what I mean? And Miguel is going to keep the factory boys, in my view, very, very honest. Do you know what I mean?
For sure. I'll be surprised if Miguel. No, I'll put it another way. I will not be surprised if we're a few races into the season, even halfway, and Miguel is the leading Aprilia. I wouldn't be surprised. He's that good. If he's comfy, I really think he's that good.
Yeah.
And that could be in the top 3 in the championship, couldn't it?
The
bike.
It's there.
I wouldn't be surprised. Put it that way.
And KTM, I know we talked a little bit about them this year, but they have invested quite a lot in 2023, in my view. They're starting to bring in a massive amount of people again. Do you know what I mean? They're using Red Bull aerodynamicists to help with it. It really is kind of like a make or break to get out of the whole year this year for KTM, isn't it?
Well, what I noticed is they went from the winners of bringing hardware, that we could see. The biggest volumes of hardware that was 2021, and before to 2022 bringing much less. The bike didn't change much, and it felt like they were being honest with us, saying that look, we want to find a direction. There's no point bringing lots and lots of parts. We're going through what we have and trying to get the most from it, and then decide where to go from here. And I think that takes some patience, and especially from a rider's point of view, when you're getting the most, like Binder was, from his bike, and Miguel, and things not coming, new stuff not coming. I imagine that's hard on your patience for all the team. But then looks like they really have done what they set out to do, and that's find a direction and invest in the right people. Like I said before, getting some top Ducati people came in. Then they've got the guys next tier down coming in, engineers. They already had an engineer, but more crew chiefs and other people working on the project. And then, like I said earlier, it feels like they've really started to turn around and come out of the hole. Look, they've come out with a chassis that worked straight away, gave a heap more rear grip, which is, I mean, Brad said, give me something. I need something to because you could tell the guy's getting everything out of it, right? And we just needed something else, like, to help him come forward, and when they did, they turned up with that chassis. He said it was worse on entry, but gave a decent amount on drive grip. So he used it.
That's what it's complained about, drive grip.
And that was the one he used in the race weekend, wasn't it? And wasn't it his engineer or his crew chief said, or what's his name, Guidotti said that's only the half step. What he said, wasn't it? It wasn't the full step that they were trying to make in the chassis.
Well, yeah, the chassis that they tested at the Valencia test, so straight after the race, it looked the same to me at first glance. It was this new evolution of chassis, and I couldn't tell the difference from the one he raced. But Brad said in his debrief it was not the same, and it fixed the entry. He was that positive about it. It was like they fixed the entry. It was like the first time he'd ever spoken about being able to put it on a line, turn, but it lost all the rear grip.
Yeah,
right.
Mac had taken pictures, got good pictures of that new chassis. When it looks kind of the same, like you say, from back forth. When you got close up to it, the top tubes were bigger in diameter.
They're oval.
But they're bigger. Okay, and then the interesting part was when it comes down to the bottom section of the chassis, right? It always was like, it used to be like the Ducati, it was steel going into steel, and you had a weld. Okay, this one had no weld. And it looks like, I'm thinking, is that an aluminum base like the
They've got a cast piece in there.
Right. Okay.
A cast piece, which is a different shape. And they covered it up with a little cover. And that's why it doesn't look like a weld, but it's a little cover on there, stopping us noticing or looking, whatever it is. But looking in behind, it's a cast looking, or maybe not cast, but probably 3D printed.
Right.
Section, but with bracing in it, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I guess that's the area that they've been working on.
Okay.
Like where the swing arm meets the chassis.
Yeah. Okay. There's no weld. Is it steel to aluminum? And they couldn't. And they actually, because they have glues, will do amazing things. Okay. And they thought, did they glue it between the two, and then it's bolted in from the back?
Yeah. I mean, they had stickers on and stuff to make it the same color, to just basically to hide it in there. Looking in behind, it's like I say. Like in my day, it would be cast. That's what it looks like, but it's probably 3D printed section there.
Okay.
So the thing that makes me feel like that they're coming out of the hole is Brad saying that the entry of this thing was like great. In fact, sounds like the first time he's ever been able to brake and turn in and get the bike turn and put it where he wants. His words were something along the lines of, I can stick the thing where I want, and that's, I've never heard him say that, so he was, so to me, KTM have found the two, what do you call it? What's something super rare, religious. You'll know the words.
The Holy Grail. Yeah,
the Holy Grail. Thank you. The drive grip that he used at the race and the front end feel that he used at the test. To me, it's only a matter of time. I know there's always a compromise, but before they turn up with the right compromise,
Yeah,
So it's exciting. It's exciting, and that's without talking about the new engine, about the new aero. To me, my gut feeling is they're on the rise.
And it's amazing because the steel trellis chassis is 20-some years old. Used to be the rule of thumb that you could not get the flex and stiffness combined if you look into the chassis, race chassis. I love race chassis development. It was 200 horsepower was the max. They've taken it to 325 horsepower now. They've went far beyond anybody's expectations. It might not be perfect, okay, but they already what they have is so much better than anybody's ever done in history, So I'm always impressed with that. Being a tech guy, go, wow, that's new, it's neat,
And did you realize that all those tubes are 3D printed, the whole lot?
No,
and they're all 3D printed. I went to the factory, had a look, and Wolfgang Felber, the chassis guy, lovely guy, a bit older than me, ex-racer himself. He's their chassis man, and he showed me a chassis in the jig, and it was the latest one. I was like, am I meant to see this? and because I could see it was another one of what they were already racing, the little telltale things that I'd spotted. And basically he showed me how that 3D printed material, it looks like a tube from the outside, doesn't it? Like an oval tube.
Yeah.
But it's a C, so it's completely hollow from the inside. If you took the tank off and looked in it, it's a hollow C, So it must be more flexible.
The Roar 1250 SC. Now that also has a C. It has 2 C section channels, of chrome moly steel, the same as they're using, and then it had an aluminum base on it. And I thought that's what got me the idea. Is that the same thing as they're going with? And that was Frame Crafters, the United States, that built that chassis. That's all they do is chassis. But I looked at it and I thought, okay, they go in that direction, or like the MV direction where they all have they're unique, the KTM having the steel on steel. Like the base, most of them, they go with aluminum. For some reason, they use aluminum on the base. But KTM that is a C section. That's a C section, though. That's very good information.
Right
Thank you.
Underneath the tank. And he let me put it in the vise and to see how strong this.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it would.
Not tube, but the C is. So I put a device on a corner of it at the end of the tube, set it up, and then and it's like it doesn't want to break.
Really?
Because if you think of a normal piece of tube, no matter the quality, you eventually break it. It was like something special, 3D printed metal. Yeah, the whole lot. So
that is absolutely brilliant. That's
the stuff I love.
He's an awesome guy as well. Like I mentioned, really passionate. That's you can tell loves what he does, and they're the guys I love meeting. Paulo Bonora from Aprilia. There are a few of these guys dotted around, and they're like they're just gems.
They're so into it. And I was going to say pick your world champion for 2023, right? But I think that's a bit too hard. So what I was going to say is pick your top 3 that you think will be in the battle for it.
That's the question, because I quickly skimmed, and the standout difficult one is that. That
exactly.
question. So I made a couple of notes because I didn't want to miss someone out and be. That was rude of me to them, So basically, I'll just run through how I see it.
Yeah.
Disregarding machines.
Right.
Yeah.
Just looking at riders. Okay.
Yeah.
I've scribbled like Mark and Fabio to me at the top because, and you know what? I still think Mark has got it. Mark's, like I mentioned earlier, because of, he's, 28 now? 28? And if I remember right. And
30, I think. 30.
I'm not sure
30.
I think he's 30. Yeah, regardless. That's okay.
So, but Fabio's like early 20s, mate. Is he 23, And that does count for something, racing in this,
Yes, it does.
His racecraft, his knowledge, like I said, at Phillip Island, his hunger, determination. But Fabio, the good bit is, has closed it, you know what I mean, over these last years. And but so it's Mark and Fabio, to me, purely on riding and
skill, right?
Yeah, skill, racecraft, the whole. Then there's a group chasing after them, isn't there? You know, there's
Mhm.
and to me, it's like when we're just talking about riders, not machines counted in. It's like, of course, you have to count Pecco in this group. Then there's Rins and Mir for me.
Yeah.
Rins and Mir, you know, they're like arguably the guys that could jump up to the Mark Fabio pairing, you know. And of course Binder, you know. To me, he's proven that if they give him the machine, he's going to be poking that top three and in that top three every weekend, you know. And ... Oliveira on the right machine. I put him in those guys that I've just listed. Who, when I say Oliveira, then there's Martin, Bez, Bastianini, are all ready to make the jump into that. You know, so I know that's listing a heap of people.
But no, that's fine.
They're the ones that, and you know what is going to happen this year? Of course, I mean, Elias has just proved, you know, what he can do. Astound us. He's bound to do the same. But Alex Marquez, he's going to be standing on the podium this year, you know?
I think,
Grassini Ducati, Alex Marquez has been world champion in 2 different classes, you know, which is, that's a feat and a half. And now he's going to be on a 22. The latest we last saw on track fighting for wins.
Mac was just saying that. The same thing. The last updates, Mac was saying that because everybody's they're not looking at Alex Marquez, but wait and see. He's been champion in 2 different divisions. He has good pedigree. Yeah.
And so I know I listed a heap there, but then you put the machinery in and it changes everything, doesn't it? You know,
it does.
Luckily, our sport is still the rider makes a big difference.
Yes, it does.
So when I throw the then I look at the championship, when you consider machinery, changes quite a bit, you know, the top group, because it levels stuff out a bit, you know what I mean? Because Mark and Fabio are going to have to make up for some machinery deficit, and then it's like the factory 2 Dukes, isn't it? You know, because when you count the riders they've got and the machinery, so there's 2 factory Dukes, Fabio, Jorge Martin, you know, that are going to come out winning, and be it the Miguel Oliveira, I still think he's going to be up there. There's Mark, Binder, still Bez. Yeah. So you know what I'm saying?
Who's the biggest question mark, do you think, out of all the riders? Who do you think is the dark horse or the one you don't know what's going on?
There's more than one, because I mean the big question mark is Honda, because to me they have the best lineup of riders. You know, pure guys that can fight for the championship all the way to the end. You know, and but they don't have the bike. So if they turn it around before the first race, or even, you know what I'm saying? Or at least make it so those guys can show how good they are, then that is the biggest question mark for me. You know, but you're talking about riders.
Yeah.
Well, look, Mark would be there if the bike is there. He's there, Joe. That's the biggest question.
And same with Fabio.
Yeah.
Same with Brad Binder.
I do have
Oliveira. You know,
I do have one question though, and I'd love to get your opinion on how do you think Ducati are going to manage the 2 alpha males in the factory? Do you think it's going to be easier, Joe, for them? Or
I just think it's coming back to normality after having Jack there, you know, because Jack's such a lovely fella and probably too nice.
Yeah,
you know,
for his own good. Yeah,
for his own good, you know. And I think Pecco's really going to miss Jack for that, and the team will. But all it is having 2 guys that want to win, and I think that's normal in a factory team.
But they're so even, I think, between Pecco and Bastianini. That's where they start to. It's not like there was a difference in speed between Pecco and Miller. Now the speeds, you know, one half dozen of the other. So now you got people butting heads, saying, "I'm taking that place, you're taking that." You know what I mean? You're on that racetrack.
No, it's ugly. It was just one of the questions that I have. Like, I always look at it. You know, just go back to Formula 1 days of Nigel Mansell versus Nelson Piquet. Do you know what I mean? Two real alpha males that I want to win at all costs. Do you know what I mean? I'll take my teammate out if I have to. Do you know what I mean? And I wonder, are those two just going to be so aggressive because they know, so you don't want to ever finish second to your teammate, right? But is that battle going to actually, do you think, could get in the way of them?
Yeah, I mean, it's only going to be it's likely to be what the fans want, you know, a bit of rivalry, you know, and especially within a team, and Ducati are going to have to manage it a bit, and can they? They've got different managers as well, you know, which I think came into play when there was all the talk of team orders and stuff.
Yeah.
Bastianini's manager didn't want to play. He's like, not unless, you know, like, so I think it's only good for the sport. I'm not worried. I think it's good for the sport. It's going to be a bit of rivalry there. And they're two factory riders that both want to win. This is normal. It's what's meant to happen. So,
definitely. Yeah. Last question that I do have for you, and I'll leave you in peace without my questions, was over the weekend I read that Jorge Villegas said when the FIM presidency was up and he was re-elected, he was just saying about that the plan for VR46 Yamaha in 2024. Did you hear that? It's not a plan, it's an idea, but he was kind of saying, you know, it's my intention that there would be 6 Ducatis and 4 Yamahas on the grid.
I mean, Vegas, I think he needs to talk less. It's not his job to say this stuff. I really don't think it's up to. I mean, I don't think it's good that he said it. It should have come from someone. I mean, because if it's true, the people that are involved are not going to be happy with him talking about that. That's
exactly.
Not cool. Yeah. That's not cool. So that's my take on it. He's got other stuff to worry about. He should worry about that. But if it's true, I can understand it as well, and it really makes sense. You know, Valley obviously has a good relationship with Yamaha. People with first questions I got is, if it's true, would you do it? I said, you know, because of Yamaha not being competitive compared to the Duke, I'm like, you know, for a decade, Ducati was like dog shit bad, wasn't it? You know,
right?
So I'm only pointing that out because Yamaha's having a bit of it, and so is Honda. You know, KTM have, but our sport is constantly evolving. You've got to be clever, plan ahead, what you believe is going to happen, who you're going to get looked after, good machinery, and I think that Yamaha would be well worth considering. Yeah, there's always the argument of V4 versus inline. Do you want to go down that? But I could see this rumor being a bit of truth to it. You know, I can understand Yamaha would want to get 2 more bikes on the grid. Who better than Valentino's team?
Brand is already there. The brand history is already there, and I'm sure it would be at a better price as well than than renting 2 Ducatis. You know what I mean? I'm sure it would be a favourable business side of it as well. But I would think there would have to be guarantees there of performance and stuff like that from Valentino's, from VR46 side, that what are you going to do to improve for the future? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because it makes it hard to get riders, the right riders, if or keep them if the machinery is not there yet. Yeah,
because like I do see Bezzecchi in Pramac in the next 2 or 3 years. Do you know what I mean? I do see them watching him in there. Like, he is a talented rider. Like, you know, he is one of those next generation ones that are coming up.
Yeah.
So you know, I think it would be while he would have trust in Valentino, it would be a very hard sell for him to go to Yamaha off a Ducati. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think VR46 also do what's right for the riders. If if the rider has the right option to go, they'll help manage them there. You know, they're not just going to force them to stay. No. So, but anyway, it's all speculation. But there could be some truth to it, and it makes sense, you know, to plan ahead. And Yamaha's serious, just like Honda. You know, they're going to turn it around. It's only a matter of time. I just hope it's quick, you know.
It's not 10 years trying to turn it around. exactly. Well, perfect. Well, that's all the questions for me, and I just want to say thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much. By the way,
you're welcome, guys. You're welcome.
Absolutely brilliant. And again, we'll try and catch up midway through the season if that's cool with you.
Yep.
And I'll keep chatting.
You're a great guest, and you're welcome back.
Thanks, mate. Well, our July summer break would be the obvious time. Yeah, we get like 2 or 3 weeks in there. So,
but hopefully I'll buy you dinner. Hopefully I'll buy you dinner in Portimao. I've put in for my media pass in the track, so hopefully I can get over there because it's only a stone's throw from me.
It's an awesome part of the world. Portimao.
I know, yeah. I actually have a love affair with the track because I actually put the safety lights on the side of the racetrack there, so I know it inside out and back to front, and so I know all the wiring around the side of the track. Do you know what I mean? So, and I have the fastest lap time in the Ford Transit around it. I'll take anyone onto that. You've just reminded me because you're obviously a Suzuki fan. And you were talking about what bikes would you like to have in your living room. I don't want any in my living room, but what I'd like in my shed, I can name some, and they're all things that I loved as I grew up, and they were very good bikes in their time. So, because I can't be one of these guys who goes, I love a 2-stroke, and I'll have an what is it, RZ 500? Well, they're probably called something else over here. What RD 500? That's right, or a RG 500. I mean. I was around working in bike shops and riding motorcycles when they came out, and they weren't great bikes. There was 4-strokes that were better at the time. GSX-R 750, way better. So I love a bike that was good in its time as well. And so probably the earliest one, I mean, I love, for example, the T500 Suzuki, the old twin, because it was first road bike I rode, candy apple red, and I'd ridden a motocross bike, 80cc, and this thing had enough grunt to wheelie. And I was like, wow. So I like them. I like the old early motocross bike from Suzuki, the first of the RMs. I love all and another Suzuki I adore is one that I grew up on, GSX 1100 from 81. ET.
Oh God, yes, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I grew up on one of those. I spent years riding on it and learnt so much from riding it. Hard, took too many risks on it.
They weighed 600 pounds and have 2 shocks in the back, and they shook, and you had those shit tires or shin-shings.
You never feel more alive.
Great bikes in their time. So sorry to bore you with that.
No, that's perfect.
Ones I'd like in my shed.
Definitely. And sure, look, we will definitely do this again, Simon. Again, thank you so much. I think people will really enjoy the conversation and the open and honesty. A lot of our subscribers hear your voice anyway, so it's definitely good just to reach out to them.
And sorry, I didn't have lots of new info for you because there's been nothing on.
It was a great time to say hi.
And look,
I live in America, by the way. You're welcome to stop by, but you just might get mugged. It's just more.
I hope it's not. I hope for you that it's not that bad.
He's all right. He's
United States. You know what I mean?
Hey, a quick view for the watches. Andorra in winter.
Oh my God, that's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Well, they say Ireland is one of the nicest places, but I think that one definitely trumps it, for sure.
No, I had a postcard look like that.
I'm not a city dweller. I like living out. So we're stuck on the side of a mountain. 10-minute drive into town there. So
beautiful.
Cool.
Brilliant.
Hey, good to talk to you guys. And
good to meet you, pal.
And you too. And look, we'll talk soon. I'll touch base anyway with you in the next couple of weeks, and just have a Merry Christmas and enjoy the new year.
Yes, have a good holiday.
Thanks a lot.
Kids and family.
And we'll see. We'll see you. We'll hear you in Sepang, but hopefully, I'll see you in Portimao. We'll do lunch or dinner or something like that.
Okay.
Super.
Thanks for
guys. Appreciate it. Bye now.